out.
Yeah, well, it'll be all right.
All right, okay.
It'll be all right. I guess you get a lot of lawyers calling Fox from time to time. People mad.
I don't know. You know, that's
Who's the maddest artist that you ever heard about?
I don't. We don't. I don't know. Some say you should be mad.
Really?
People say, yeah. People say. But now hold on. I had nothing to do with none of them sketches that we did about you.
You know what? My whole thing is like, if it's something negative that I think might bother me, I just don't watch. But you know what's funny is like my producer showed me a tape of One Piece, and one day I was walking through the house, and I guess you can't get away from it because it was on Bob Costas.
Oh.
You know? So I'm like. Oh.
Well, here it is, the last part of this In Living Color Beef series. And this one is going to be a bit of a doozy. It's the issue between Arsenio Hall and Keenan Ivory Wayans, whom you guys should know they were both members of the Black Pack, which was pretty much like a group that Eddie Murphy formed of black comedians and whatnot too. And yeah, man, this one, it's not really that much. I'm just going to go right straight to the point with this one and shit like that, because I'm not really trying to make this episode a bit too long and whatnot compared to the other ones, but I feel like this has to be talked about. So let's start this story in 1987. And pretty much when we have all discussions about the early career of Keenan Ivory Wayans and Arsenio Hall, we have to really start it off with Eddie Murphy. Whom Eddie Murphy, at this time, he was getting ready to promote his movie Beverly Hills Cop 2. You know what I'm saying? And also around this time too, he was very cool with his friends, Arsenio Hall, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Robert Townsend, and Paul Mooney. And among the group of friends, Eddie Murphy was known as Money and whatnot, and they were all chilling in the hotel. And they were talking about how, they were up and rising black comedians, but at the same time, they felt like they weren't getting their just due when it came to Hollywood and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And at that time, Eddie Murphy, he was already a full-fledged movie star, stand-up comedian at that time too, you know what I'm saying? And, as he got famous, he ended up, bringing like a lot of black comedians and actors on, For example, Damon Wayans appeared on Beverly Hills Cop and shit like that. And of course, he brought Robert Townsend to direct the Raw movie, which we're going to talk about that later on in this episode as well. Fast forward to May 20th, 1987. Eddie Murphy had released his movie Beverly Hills Cop 2. This was a very box office success. It had a budget of $27 million, but it grossed up to $300 million and shit. Not as good as the first Beverly Hills Cop, in my opinion. Still a very quality movie. I mean, this was Eddie Murphy in the 80s, so what can you expect? And so in August of that same year, he had a press conference, promoting the movie and his upcoming projects. And he was pretty much talking about how there was the Black Pack, you know what I'm saying? And this caused a lot of people to be intrigued by the Black Pack, because the Black Pack, was really like the black counterparts to Rat Pack, you know what I'm saying? It featured, like I mentioned, Robert Townsend, Arsenio Hall, Paul Mooney, and Keenan Ivory Wayans and whatnot too, as this up and rising, raw, emerging black comedians and whatnot. And the Black Pack, gathered like a lot of attention in Hollywood and things of that nature. And it got to the point where Pee Wee Herman, he was almost, part of the whole Black Pack as well too. And it's crazy because, while Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall were filming Coming to America, Pee Pee Wee Herman was also, you know, filming his stuff and I think in the studio in that same lot too, you know what I'm saying? And so yeah, he was pretty much affiliated with those guys too. So that's something I really did not know. So you know, the Black Pack, you know, they ended up, you know, working on each other's projects and shit like that too. And each of them was getting ready like to break out in one way or another. So you know, the same year, you know, when we came to Arsenio Hall and shit like that, you know, that time he was working with Joan Rivers on the Late Show. Because you gotta remember, when the Fox was really starting, Joan Rivers had her late night show because she had gotten into it with Johnny Carson, which that might be an episode by itself, honestly. So stay tuned on that. And so what ended up happening was she had her late show, but then she and Fox pretty much had like a lot of creative differences. And so they brought in like a lot of guests, you know, to fill in the void. And Arsenio Hall pretty much was one of the guests, you know, when it came to the Late Show. And so when he was on the guest, it was crazy, you know. He brought in like a lot of the hip hop demographics. Like, if I'm not mistaken, he brought in LL Cool J in one episode and stuff like that too, you know. And this is like around the time when you had like not a lot of rappers was appearing on late night and shit too. So Arsenio hosted, and it pretty much became like a ratings success and whatnot too. So yeah, man. So you know, because of the high ratings and shit like that.
And I think there was a phallic symbol on the Beastie Boys stage that comes up, and they've taken a lot of negative criticism. But you have a very positive image, and it's one thing that I like about you and your work. And I hear you live with your grandmother. Is that the reason?
I live with my grandmother in St. Albans, Queens, and I'm still the same person, still chilling, you know what I'm saying?
They wanted to talk to him about, you know, having his own show, of course, the Arsenio Hall show. And at that time too, he was getting ready to co-star with Eddie Murphy, the Coming to America as well too. So yeah, he was definitely doing this thing and making moves at that time too, you know what I'm saying? Also, you know, when it came to Paul Mooney was like the elder statesman. You know, he was writing like a lot of scripts, you know, especially with Eddie Murphy, which, you know, Paul Mooney, Keenan Ivory Wayans, they definitely lend their writing talents, you know, for Eddie Murphy's 88 comedy film Raw and shit like that too. And both Keenan Ivory Wayans and Eddie Murphy wrote the film's introduction and shit. So, you know, Eddie Murphy at that time, you know, he was definitely killing the game. Like, he had a multi-picture deal with Paramount Pictures. He had his own TV production company, Eddie Murphy TV Enterprises and whatnot. And then also around that time too, for HBO, you know, he had produced the stand-up film Uptown Comedy Express. You know what I'm saying? And so this definitely was like another success. It actually starred Chris Rock in one of his earliest performances as well too. So that's something noteworthy as well too.
It takes a lot of courage to go to a nightclub and ask a woman to dance. I mean, especially if you're not drunk. If you're drunk, it doesn't matter. You know, you want to dance? Do you? Fuck it, bitch. Because if I ask a woman to dance and she says no, it hurts a lot. It like she says no in slow motion. You know, it's like, would you like to dance? No, not with you.
You know what I'm saying? This was definitely like a huge moment, you know. The whole Black Pack was just, you know, collaborating with one another on each other's projects and being all close and whatnot too. But it wasn't always happy dappy and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, let's get into this whole situation between Keenan Ivory Wayans and Arsenio Hall, you know. And according to many sources, it's been said that these two apparently never cared for one another and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? And it's had at the point when Keenan Ivory Wayans had a quote, and he said, and I quote, "When both of us first came to LA, we were best friends," unquote. But then you had like other people who said otherwise. enter Richie Tienkin, who was Eddie Murphy's co-manager at the time, and he pretty much said, and I quote, "Keenan and Arsenio didn't get along. It was like watching two broads try to pick up a guy," unquote. So let's get started with why they actually got into it. So what a lot of people don't know is the fact that Arsenio Hall actually met Eddie Murphy through Keenan Ivory Wayans. And, at that time, they were getting ready to work on Eddie Murphy's Raw stand-up special, which Robert Townsend directed and Keenan Ivory Wayans actually produced. So it actually ended up like this. Keenan actually served as a writing credit for like the opening sketch of Raw, but according to rumors and whatnot, there was rumors that there was a falling out between Eddie Murphy and Keenan Ivory Wayans right after Raw was released and whatnot, due to the fact that of like creative differences due to the writing credit or Keenan Ivory Wayans not getting the right credit. And it was also said that Arsenio Hall was the one that called Keenan, and he pretty much told Keenan, and I quote, "You're out and I'm in." So in between, 87 and 88, 89, Eddie Murphy, he was doing his thing. He had, of course, the Raw stand-up special, which, of course, that was a huge success. Then fast forward to 1988, he had, of course, Coming to America, which Arsenio Hall co-starred with him in. And, of course, 1989, he had Harlem Nights as well, too, So he was definitely doing his thing at that time, making noise. And at that time, too, Arsenio, of course, he was getting his name out there. He had already had some good success, with the late night host and whatnot. So now he was ready to have his own show of his own. So fast forward to January 3rd, 1989, Arsenio Hall show premiered, and it was an immediate success. The Arsenio Hall show was just a show like no other at that time too. Like, yes, there's been late night shows in the past, of course, with Johnny Carson and of course with Letterman and all that shit, but Arsenio Hall was really like the first late night show to really cater mostly to like the hip hop demographic and whatnot too. Now don't get me wrong, it wasn't just rappers and people in the hip hop industry that was really just being interviewed. You had cats, of course, actors, R&B artists, you had like a different variety of people, and Arsenio was just one of those cats that pretty much vibed with everybody and whatnot too, So his show was pretty much a success, and you guys should know by 1990, In Living Color pretty much had premiered and shit like that too, and we all know the story with that. That was another success. Another immediate success right there too. So it was just like, by this time, the whole Black Pack was getting into projects of their own, blowing up on their own and whatnot too. But it was not always paradise within them. So when we talk about the Arsenio and Keenan Ivory Wayans and shit like that too, Keenan Ivory Wayans gave Arsenio a few digs, during the whole In Living Color show and whatnot too. And in his duration of the show, there were like 4 notable sketches to lampooning Arsenio Hall and whatnot. The first one was when Arsenio Hall, played by Keenan Ivory Wayans, there was a parody on his show and he was interviewing Marion Hall, played by David Allen Greer and whatnot too. And this one, they pretty much were just lampooning how Arsenio would just go overexcited or stuff like that to being a kiss up and shit, like pretty funny sketch. And the second sketch, you had, of course, the Arsenio when he was like being like this like drug counselor. He played Dare. The Dare kids, playing on that. And then you had these kids, just telling the experience about dealing with drugs and alcohol. And, over time, he just got, distracted by talking about how Eddie Murphy was his best friend and shit like that, too, which he did in the previous sketch I mentioned. And the third sketch you had Arsenio Halls of Justice, where Arsenio plays like this like prosecutor and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And this one, it was just like this was another funny sketch, you know, him just going crazy on the floor, you know, jumping and giving a belly hump to like the bailiff. And then the fourth sketch, you know, it had Arsenio Hall, you know, this is a play on the movie Cape Fear, where it had Jamie Foxx play Eddie Murphy and shit like that. Arsenio Hall plays like this stalker, you know, stalking Eddie Murphy. And the irony of it all was just like Jamie Foxx, he actually did play Arsenio Hall in a later sketch. Like this was like after Keenan Ivory Wayans had left and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And that was like a play on when him, Jim Carrey, and Takia Crystal Kima, who played Jay Leno and Whoopi Goldberg respectively, you know, they're talking about the whole late night scandal, like the late night beef and stuff like that, you know, when everybody was trying to take Carson's spot or whatever. Yeah, man, all those sketches are worthwhile to check out, you know what I'm saying?
You have beautiful women inviting you to hotels, people following you everywhere you go. What's it like to be a sex symbol? I don't think you understand, Arsenio. I don't consider myself a sex symbol. I do consider myself a man who's been wrongly accused of a crime, and I'm here tonight to clear my name. All charges against me are false. There's been no proof of any wrongdoing on my part. Hey, you, wake up!
In the closet most of my life. I was abused as a child. One time my mother held me underwater for about 4.5 minutes. My father used to use me as an ashtray!
Mr. Hall, what do you find so amusing?
Oh, nothing. Just a little joke me and Whitney shared about Eddie Murphy.
Objection!
What is...
Let me ask you something, Ethan. You're a young man. You're smoking weed. What are you, 12 years old? Doing things that kids do. You ever find yourself just freaking out? Thinking maybe Super Mario is coming to get you? Pac-Man's trying to eat you? Oh, Pac-Man's after me! Pac-Man's after me! Hey, look. Hey, man, that's sick. Yo, man. Hey, yo, man, what's up? Why you laughing like a jackass? Eddie, if the shoe fits, wear it. Oh, my main man, Eddie, sit your leather-clad, wanna be a rock star, hunk of burning butt on down next to me. It'll be just like old times, Eddie. Hey, look, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm surprised you don't remember me, Eddie. It was 4 long years ago that you sentenced me to my own show when you knew I wanted to be a movie star, Eddie. Didn't you see Amazon women on
This time, you know, Arsenio Hall was reportedly not, you know, impressed with the impersonation that Keenan Ivory Wayans was doing on the show, and he took into Entertainment Weekly on a July 27th issue, you know what I'm saying, where he pretty much said that, and I quote, that he told the reporters that, and I quote, it was a vendetta and wasn't funny, and he said that Keenan Ivory Wayans would never appear on his talk show. Now you gotta also remember at this time too, Arsenio Hall was kind of getting into it with like a lot of other people around this time. You know, he kind of got into it with Roseanne. I think he said some shit about Madonna too and stuff like that. And that whole Entertainment Weekly article, he was just going after all of his rivals and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And so it was said that Arsenio Hall was very furious after watching the, you know, that impersonation of him and whatnot, and he said, and I quote, that absolutely has never been true. Not only do I not think the skit was mean-spirited, there was a part in it they took out and I thought was hilarious and should have kept it in, unquote. And it's crazy too because like he was talking about how in an edited version it was said that he had the Hello Eddie on his soles and his shoes, and when he raised his feet to the camera it would show him and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, they did put that in the Dare sketch and stuff like that too, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, he also pretty much said that, you know, wasn't too offended of it and shit like that too, just going after the press and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And it was kind of crazy too because with both shows being, one of the leading components to like the whole, uprising, the whole black comedy of the early 90s, there was said that there was like a lot of times when there was like similar ideas and whatnot that was coming out from the two camps. One of the things that caught my attention was when Kim Coles left after the first season, it was said that, Arsenio Hall wanted Kim Coles in his team and shit like that too, which that proved not to be true and whatnot. And you gotta also remember too that Arsenio Hall, like when it came to like the early 90s, like 91, he had a show that he was producing for Nia Peoples called The Party Machine. And so, The Party Machine, that was like a musical variety show that it was in syndication, that only like aired for like one season. It was pretty much Arsenio Hall's version of the old MTV show Club MTV, but this was more catered towards the New Jack Swing audience and stuff like that too. And even though the ratings was like very strong for Party Machine, it eventually went downhill. And it was said that, Keenan Ivory Wayans, at one point, he was considering like venturing out the Fly Girls into their own show or until like their own music and stuff like that too, because he also wanted to break the Fly Girls into their own as well too, So, and a lot of people kind of felt like Keenan Ivory Wayans was kind of taking from Arsenio Hall and whatnot too, So, that's very interesting as well. So fast forward to 1990, September 16th to be exact, you had the 1990 Primetime Emmy Awards and shit like that, And, In Living Color and the Arsenio Hall show, they had racked some Emmy nominations as well. Both shows was nominated for Outstanding Variety Musical Comedy Series, and they were also nominated alongside The Late Night with David Letterman, Saturday Night Live, and The Tracy Ullman Show. And in Living Color, it won that Emmy Award.
Of this year's Emmy is In Living Color.
I'd like to thank the people who helped make the vision come a reality. Kevin Bright, Michael Peacock, Tamara Rowett. To all the people up at Fox, Barry Diller, Peter Turner, for giving us the chance.
But things came back to reality when, their idol, Richard Pryor, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And at that time, his physical deterioration was pretty much happening gradually and whatnot. And so by 1991, he became thin and he was mostly just commuting through like a wheelchair or just a motor scooter and whatnot too. So in November of 1991, CBS aired a special called A Party for Richard Pryor and whatnot too, which was a celebration of him, his legacy and what he did for stand-up comedy as long as for entertainment business. And Eddie Murphy pretty much helped, he helped organize the event. One of my all-time favorite moments I remember from that was Bobby Womack actually singing, If You Think You're Lonely Now, or Richard Pryor was close to tears, when, he was hearing him sing and shit like that too. So I do remember that moment. And it was also the fact that this was also the reunion of, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Arsenio Hall, and Robert Townsend. You know what I'm saying? And so they were all in the attendance, they were all, paying homage to Richard Pryor and shit like that too. And, Eddie Murphy pretty much said, and I quote, "If there was no Richard, I wouldn't be here."
If I were going to bookend my career, it would be with those two moments. The Tonight Show and being able to thank the guy who showed me what I was going to do with my life. I could not have been more just open and sincere and loving and appreciative.
Had you met him before that?
No, what I said to him that night was that I had had many opportunities to meet him. When he would come to the Comedy Store, Eddie was very good friends with him, and he wanted to introduce me because he knew what a huge influence Richard had on me.
And so it was just a dope moment for all of them to come together and just to pay homage to the guy that really made them want to do the art form in the first place. And Keenan Ivory Wayans, he even said in interviews that it was all good fun and stuff like that. He didn't really have any public ill will against Arsenio Hall and shit like that. He just pretty much said, comedy was comedy and things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that pretty much concludes this whole Arsenio Hall, Keenan Ivory Wayans situation and whatnot. Both figures have remained an influence when it came to like black culture over the years, you know what I'm saying? Both have been, lampooned and duplicated in pop culture, but at the same time, never really succeeded in that duplication and shit like that. So it's been a pleasure talking about these episodes with y'all, and stay tuned for more. Peace.
Don't take disrespect lightly. And I try to find ways to ignore it, but the only way that I think that I could put this to an end, and again, so it doesn't mess up my kids' careers or have anything to do with it, is if I just say what I probably should have said a while ago. I mean, Eminem is a part of hip-hop.